Hi everyone, good morning and welcome to 3 Charts in 1 with me, Richard Perry, market analyst for Infinox on Wednesday the 8th of June. Now, we've had a bit of a consolidation in forex today. I'm looking at the euro dollar for that, but also consolidation in equity markets, and for that I'm looking at the DAX. But there is a potential breakout that we're seeing attempting on the oil price, and that is my final chart. But moving straight into the euro dollar chart, what we've seen is this recovery in euro dollar in recent weeks, but essentially this recovery has now broken an uptrend amidst consolidation. It's just consolidated, so subsequently this uptrend has now been broken and it's sort of moving in a sideways range, and this comes ahead of the European Central Bank meeting today, and this consolidation comes between sort of support around the 106.40 breakout, but underneath the previous reaction lows, which is overhead supply around 107.80 to 108 big figure. So you've got this resistance and support, this consolidation area, and I think that the ECB decision may well drive a break of that consolidation. And it's expected to be sort of moving towards interest rate hikes, but whether it how hawkish it goes will be interesting. But essentially euro is still holding up, and this chart is just consolidating. You can see the prospect of this turning into a head and shoulders top pattern. You've got this 4-hour RSI, which was positive through, if I go one more level back, was positive through the recovery, but it's obviously now settled into this sort of more neutral configuration. So it's just wait and see, I think, at the moment in front of the ECB, and I think that could be the drive. I think a close below 106.40 decisively would be a disappointment, would be a breakdown, would be a top pattern. You could then measure sort of around 130, 140 pips of further downside, but above 107.80 and 108 big figure would continue the recovery and then challenge that downtrend. So I think it is really sort of make or break time for this euro dollar chart. So moving on to the oil price, what we have on oil is this uptrend channel has developed in the past sort of month or so. Higher lows and higher highs, breaking higher, but you can also see this test of 124.40, this level of resistance that we saw back in March is being tested again this week. It's just coming up shy of that resistance at the moment and just holding up, but it ticked higher yesterday and it's ticked a little bit higher today. So essentially what we have is this strengthening momentum still. That RSI is into the mid 60s. That suggests strong positive momentum, but with upside potential as well. So I think a breakout above 124.40 really does open the upside. Obviously, you've got this uptrend channel that you could trade along, but also essentially you sort of get towards the 130 big figure level, 131 as the next resistance, and then you sort of maybe even the spike high of 140. So really does open the upside. I think if you break through 124.40, you've got buying into weakness that continues to happen. Let's go back one more level on that. And you can see alongside these moving averages on the 4-hour chart, you've got the initial support around 120.50. Below 118.40, I think you start to look a bit less positive. It starts to turn corrective again below 114.80. And finally on the DAX, again, another uptrend that is holding actually. What we have is this run higher on the DAX. Consolidation in the last week or so on equities though. And the question is whether this consolidation is the precursor to a correction or just a pause. Now, there is big resistance overhead on the DAX. Go back a couple of levels. You can see the massive overhead resistance at 1,480 to 15,000. And sorry, 14,800 to 15,000. And that is big resistance overhead, big overhead supply. But at the moment, it's still holding this uptrend recovery and it's sort of moving higher lows, higher highs. You've got the positive momentum. It's not strong, but it is positive of the RSI that is in sort of towards that 60 level. And it does still point towards buying into weakness on this DAX. And you do still have that in recent days where you're sort of moving higher highs and higher lows along the uptrend. So holding above 14,320, that was a previous breakout level. Holding above that, I think you still maintain the strong momentum, strong move above the moving averages as well. So at the moment you're buying into weakness, but a little bit sort of cautious, obviously, given the consolidation that we've had. US Treasury yields rising again doesn't tend to be positive for equity markets, but at the moment equity markets are sort of holding. But yeah, it's just underneath the resistance, and that is the concern I have underneath the 1,400. Sorry, 14,800 level of resistance. And whilst that is the case, it still is essentially just sort of unwinding, really. So that needs the level that needs to break out. Above 15,000, you really are away to the races. But at the moment, it is just creeping higher rather than pushing strongly higher. So with that in mind, I wish you good luck in your trading, and I'll speak to you next time. Thank you.